A school is a collection of individuals that are all there for one common purpose, with the student achievement. And in order to achieve the goal of student achievement, everybody in the school must display a certain behavior. The kids must display a certain behavior, the parents must display a certain behavior, the teachers, the custodial staff, cafeteria staff, front office staff, administrators, counselors, everybody must display a certain behavior. Now, before we go too much further, let's actually talk about the word behavior. Because in education, we've hijacked this word. We've hijacked this word and we've relegated it to only mean someone's following the rules or breaking the rules. And that's not what a behavior is. A behavior is how someone responds when they're put in a certain situation or they're put in a certain environment. You really can't determine whether or not it was the correct or incorrect behavior other than by looking at the result of that particular behavior. And the one thing about a behavior is that if a behavior does not exist within somebody, you're not going to punish a behavior into a person. You have to either teach them a different behavior or just accept the fact that this is what their behavior is going to be. So, for example, let's say you have a student that whenever they get frustrated, they take a chair and they throw it across the room. That's how they deal with their frustration at that particular point. If you want them to deal with their frustration differently, you got to give them a different approach to be able to deal with their behavior. That is how they've learned to deal with their frustration at this particular point. So what you have to do is teach them a different way to approach that. Now, that's an extreme that we oftentimes focus on. But there's a more common behavior that we see in schools that we don't place an emphasis on that is actually more detrimental to the goal of student achievement. Let's say that same student is taking a test. They're taking a math test. Now, before this test, the math teacher has taught them all the strategies necessary to be successful in this test. The kid actually seems like they actually have an understanding of the strategy they need to be able to pass this particular test. But let's say the kid gets to taking the test and they get to a point when they're doing one of the problems and they get stuck. They get frustrated. And instead of just trying to persevere through it, instead, they just get frustrated and just stop taking the test altogether. That's an actual more common behavior that we see. And the other thing about that particular behavior is that that behavior arguably is more detrimental to the goal of student achievement, because how do you punish a kid for that particular behavior? How do you address that particular behavior in a consequential way? That kid is willing to accept the consequence that actually comes, which is they're going to get a 0 or they're not going to pass the test. And that is counter to the goal of student achievement. So we have to be able to acknowledge and understand that behavior is the process of how you go about doing things in certain environments and certain situations. And you have to be able to teach people the appropriate way to be able to go about doing those particular things.